to give me roses. I wish she would again, but that was on the outside. Things were different then. On the inside, the roses grow. They don't mind the stony ground, but the roses here are prisoners too. When morning comes around,
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Oh, my goodness me. I didn't dream of it. I've never had anything like that in my whole life. No. I'm so happy to see all the fans. I'm meeting people that have been writing to me for years. It's fabulous.
To Michelle.
Michelle.
That's my daughter.
Oh.
I wish you could again.
On July the 2nd, 1984, Southern time in Wentworth, I couldn't take anymore. 4 o'clock in the morning, I sat up in my cell. I was covered in sweat, someone started to yell. There's a riot going on. Yeah, there's a riot going on. There's a riot going on. Up in cell block number 9. I looked through the window, there stood the freak. My heart went cold, I felt so weak. Throughout cell block H, the riot spread. You're in trouble, Latham, get back in that bed. There's a riot going on. There's a riot going on. Up in cell block number 9. She opened the door, I went straight through. There stood Frankie B and Lizzie too. B said, "Okay, girls, get ready to run. No time to lose, this is gonna be fun." There's a riot going on. There's a riot going on. There's a riot going on. To help them fight and win. I took one look, I'll have him, him, and him. All the crims went crazy in cell block number 9. Them girls went crazy there in cell block number 9. There's a riot going on. Up in cell block number 9.
Well, but we see you in prison, but we also see you in Richmond Hill. Connie? Yeah. Oh, what I like Connie. I mean, what was Connie? You could never get a proper man.
Oh, no, she kept trying, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
And just when I found one day, stopped the show. And off I went.
And what about that nice son of yours?
Oh, he was fabulous. He's a gorgeous boy. He really is. I think he's a good little actor, too. I think as he gets older, he'll get better.
And what about Prisoner? Do you miss being in Prisoner? Because it's a long time since you were in it. Because it was made, obviously, years ago in Australia.
It is.
Do you miss it?
Don't I?
No, not at all.
I tell you what I do miss. I miss the companionship of all the girls because we did have a laugh. You can imagine, you know, pretending to be tough one minute and lovey-dovey the next and bashing up someone one day and having babies the next.
We might have some of your old friends around, actually.
Oh, really?
Now, look, tell me what you've been doing immediately.
Well, as soon as I left prison, I went straight into the theatre world. And in fact, 2 weeks ago, I was still playing Amanda Prynne in Private Lives, which is written by Noel Coward. And Joan Collins, of course, is here at the moment, just going to open in London. But that's what I've been doing. I've literally just stepped off of the Sydney Opera House in Australia and come straight here. And here I am now starring in Derby.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Excuse me.
Oh, no.
Yes, yes. I'm off.
No, don't go.
I am leaving you.
Please.
With Frankie Doyle.
No, Anna, don't. Oh, don't leave me with her.
What are you trying to pull now, Muggleton? Or should I say, who are you trying to pull in that get-up?
Well, I'm not going to try and pull you, darling, that's for sure.
I didn't want to have anything to do with you. I had my girlfriend. I had Doreen for a girlfriend.
Oh, Doreen.
Oh, well, she did rather sleep with a teddy bear than me, I must admit.
You had that, Karen Travers?
No, I never had her. I tried to have her, but I never had her. She got all moony about that bloody doctor, didn't she? God, what a
Wasn't
lad.
he lovely?
No, he was a prawn.
Not like the doctor I killed with a pair of scissors, though.
Yeah, you're a bit naughty.
Oh,
no
I
wonder they
know,
sent you off to
I know.
Barnhurst.
You know when you left,
Yeah,
I pulled a bloke.
you didn't.
I did.
How often?
Oh, disgusting.
Did he enjoy it?
Of course he enjoyed it. He ended up giving me a baby.
Which way?
Oh, well, through the bars, of course. Oh, God. Do you remember how the walls used to wobble?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, no!
Oh, God. What have you come as? Queen Bee or something?
Oh, you guessed it right first time.
Yeah, you weren't always queen, you know.
Those walls didn't bloody wobble, and I should know because I threw you two up against them often enough.
Oh, I know my bum still hurts.
Yeah, well, you weren't Queen Bee all the time, you know.
Don't start a fight with me, madam. Ask her what happened last time she had a fight with me.
She fractured my nose.
She did. For real. It was her own fault, though.
Well, go on, tell me.
Not my own fault.
Was.
She went, like that.
She ran into my elbow with her nose.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that
She went,
before.
like that.
She ran into my elbow with her
I
nose.
did not, Val. Come on, tell the truth.
5 times. Now, I understand that there are a few prisoner fans out there. Prisoners of We would like to thank you for your loyalty and dedication to the show, because without you, we just wouldn't be here. But without somebody else, none of you would be here either. I am referring, of course, to 2 local girls who had the very good sense and courage to start the first ever Prisoner Silverlock H fan club in the world. And I am, of course, talking about Tracy Elliott and Ros Vexy.
Yeah!
Now, I have some bad news for you, and that is, normally we do get the opportunity to sort of come and meet you face to face, person to person and in the flesh. Unfortunately, tonight we're not going to be able to do that, well, not all of you anyway. So we had a little lottery, and we put all your names in the hat. And this gorgeous tatty envelope that I've got here contains the names of the 2 lucky people who are going to come and spend the interval with us, and possibly a bottle of Lizzie's homemade brew, if you like it.
Potato peelings again, is it?
Out of a shampoo bottle. And the lucky winners are May Jeffrey and Jackie Ryan. Could you come up to the stage, please? May Jeffrey and Jackie Ryan.
Let us show you a very good time.
Oh, there's
won't
one,
we?
yes.
This way.
There we are. That gentleman will show you how.
He couldn't show her how. I've seen him. He couldn't show her how.
I'm sorry, I don't do this dirt.
Oh,
Oh, no, I've gone very
Don't
clean
you dish
these
the
days.
dirt
No,
anymore?
not anymore, no.
Geez, how boring
I'm
life
terribly
must be.
pure.
Yeah.
It is very boring.
I thought they were going to come up.
They are coming up. Now which one are you? Jackie, congratulations.
Come with me, Jackie. I'll show you a good
All
time.
right, bye. We may never see her again. And this obviously is May. Congratulations, darling. Now, you may not like this, but I'm going to leave you in the tender care of these 2 old lags.
Come on, we're going
Bye.
this way. Bye. You all right?
Now, we come to my very favourite thing in the whole world, Smoko. Thank you.
Quite the end session. Yeah. Two guitarists. One's coming.
Can't get over it. I didn't know what to wear to put my face when you said.
Oh God, that's.
I love that sort of thing when it really is a genuine surprise.
Yeah. I'm still on the shake.
What's that?
Goodness me, you've come a long way then. I do feel responsible to the fans. So many of them have written such wonderful letters to me that I keep all of them. I've got them all in special books at home in Australia. And probably when I'm an old lady, I shall get them out and read them all over again, because they're full of love and appreciation. And yes, I am scared that some of those people are going to be out there tonight, seeing me alive and not behind a television screen. I think that makes me feel very vulnerable. So it'll be... Yes? Who's that calling me?
Oh, sorry, darling.
What, they're screaming for me up there?
No, they're not screaming for you. I was just...
Wow, do you think this looks... It looks better with the black, doesn't it? The plain black... Oh, that was great.
It looks great, yeah.
It's going to be weird not being in front of cameras that you can cut and just, you know, do it again, because we are live tonight with the fans, which is, again, even more scary and more exciting. But it's great meeting the other girls today. It's been fantastic seeing Carol Burns. We've just gone bleh and haven't left each other alone. We've been catching up over the last 10 years. And of course, when you get talking to each other, you start saying, oh, do you remember this and do you remember that? And that side of it's great fun. Oh, Carol.
Making fools of ourselves still.
You'd think we'd get a grown-up
I
job,
know,
wouldn't you?
yes,
Yeah.
I know. Well, what's your other job?
What am I doing here? It's all 10 years too late for me. It really has been that long since I tried to do a Frankie Doyle, and am I going to be able to find her again? Because it was only 20 weeks that I did Frankie for. But that 20 weeks seems to have now gone on to feed something totally new and beyond that little soap opera that we did. I think there has to be some way that I can conjure up. I can't ever go back to the energy of the real Frankie Doyle. You know, Frankie Doyle was a young, energetic, deprived, hurt, determined young woman. Now I am a quite contented 42-year-old woman, but I'll have to try to get inside the mind as I can see it now. And then for the second half, I think I'll just be me, which may be very boring for Anna Soubry to try and find out about, because Carol Burns is a very private person. But for the first half, I'll do a sort of to try to find the voice again, which was, how did I inspire it in the first time? I heard a boy on the train when I was coming down from seeing my brother in Cairns, and he was saying to his friend, piss off, go on, piss off. And I thought, that's what Frankie Doyle's like. So that's what I've got. Just before I go on tonight, I'll have to say, oh, piss off, Latham, will you piss off? And that might get me started again.
The whole duality of the whole fans.
It's going to be hard.
Because the fans, they are sort of cross-referencing all the time.
Yes, yeah.
I feel so responsible about revisiting a character that means so much to so many other people when it hasn't been something for me for so long. But I've done so many things since doing this character that I am terrified about recreating, because I don't want to let people down. But I'll be trying my hardest. That's all I can say to the people out there. Excuse me, gentlemen, I can't have you coming in here with me.
Except sort of, because I'm like this and I'm trying to be
it's
character.
So funky, yeah.
So I'm playing a character, but I'm playing a character the same way.
I don't know.
You know, it's very strange for me to be over here in England 10 years after the event. I killed Prisoner and I killed B. Smith in 1983, and then all of a sudden, last year, it was all regenerated for me, and I had to sort of think back and try and remember storylines and scripts and events that I really was trying to get rid of, because as an actress I have tried to move on into other roles and other parts and develop my craft. But I was dragged back into it over here, and I'm actually quite enjoying it. I must say that the reaction of the fans is very, very gratifying. Of course, without you guys out there, the fans I mean, we would be nowhere at all.
What was it like coming over to this country and seeing yourself going back so many years? I mean, suddenly, you know, you are a star in this country when you were a star in Australia, what, 10 years? What it was? I don't know how many years.
You know, it reminded me terribly of a musical that I did a long time ago called Applause, where there's a scene, and Lauren Bacall, of course, played it on Broadway. There's a scene where she catches herself in a film, and there's a song that goes with it, like, "Who's that girl?" It was just like that. Yeah. Here I am, 10 years younger. Oh my God, you know, it's a bit of a shock.
I tell you what.
I think I'll try to, whilst we do this show this evening, be more Val than B. Smith. There are some similarities, though, between Val and B. Smith. I mean, I don't sort of put people's hands in the steam press and burn them and things like that. I'd like to, occasionally. I haven't killed anyone for weeks, but I've thought about it.
Now look, Val. Is it going to be...
I wouldn't start if I were you. I'll sit on you, you'll never dance again. I always feel a very big responsibility towards fans, particularly if they sort of come up to me in the street and want my autograph. I always try and make time to chat to them. And I feel very, very upset when I am genuinely in a hurry and have to sort of run away, and I know, and I haven't got time to sign their autograph or chat to them. I know that I leave those people thinking, oh, she's a bitch, she's a snob, she's this, that, the other thing, and it's not true. So when I've got a situation like this where there's a large audience of people who have come, who are supporters of the show, it's a nice opportunity to make up for those few people I had to run away from and not give my time to.
Welcome back. I've been trying to remember how long ago it was that Ros and Tracy told me that they had actually found Sheila Florance. And I know they were delighted, and they spoke to her and they wrote to her, and they said that it was particularly wonderful because she was such a lovely, nice, kind, warm person. The next stage of all of this was that they've persuaded her to come over to Britain to see her family. We'll learn more about that in a minute. And of course to meet her many, many fans. Well, you can imagine how we all felt on Tuesday. That's when I heard about it. I got a phone call from Ros and Tracy to say that Sheila was extremely ill and that she was in hospital. Now, this is a mark of a truly remarkable woman because she got out of hospital on Wednesday, despite being extremely poorly. I can't believe it. I'm sure you can't. I know Ros and Tracy can't. She is here. Will you please welcome, an extra special warm welcome for Sheila Florance. It was worth it, wasn't it? How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Well, you look wonderful.
Oh, yes.
No, you do. You haven't been at the grog, have you?
Boiling water I've been drinking.
Really? No, this is true, because I know you're not well. I want to talk about you, first of all, about you, Sheila. Tell us where you were born.
I was born in a suburb called St Kilda in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia.
Yes.
In 1916.
And tell us about your family.
Well, I have 2 sons and 3 magnificent grandchildren. And one son lives in Manchester, and my other younger son has come with me today. He's here.
And he's looking after you, and he's doing a grand
my
job.
minder.
You need it with all these fans. Now, you were brought up, obviously, in Australia. Where did you go to school?
I was boarding in a convent for 12 years, and probably that's why I'm such a wild one now.
Were you a naughty girl when you were at school?
I think quite vile.
And did you act at school?
Yes, a lot. Yes, always.
So did you always want to be an actress?
I wanted to be a doctor at one time, a surgeon. And then I saw Dame Sybil Thorndike, and I said, I'll be the world's most famous Shakespearean actress, and here I am, ended up as Lizzie Birdsworth.
And we love you for it. So, when did you leave school? How old were you when you left school?
17, ran away and got married.
Ooh.
Came to England and worked in theatre until 1950.
Now, what sort of parts did you play when you were in theatre?
Mostly classical stuff, yes. Shaw and Coward and Wilde and Shakespeare.
Somebody told me that you actually played with Noel Coward.
Yes, I did during the war.
What part did you play? Can you remember?
Oh, no, I didn't play with him. We were entertaining the troops together.
Really? Did you tour then? Did you go on tour?
No, in London.
And these classical parts that you played, obviously you enjoyed them. Why did you enjoy those parts? What was it about them?
Well, that's a strange question. Why does one enjoy acting? I don't know. It's an illness, a disease.
You just can't help but be on the stage.
No.
When you were at school, when you were a little girl, were you the sort of child that stood up on the table at family parties and performed and acted?
No.
But you weren't quiet as a little girl.
No, just the opposite. I was never quiet, but I wasn't one of that type of performer. No.
Right. So how did you get into Prisoner?
One day the firm rang me and asked me would I like to play an alcoholic old lag who had poisoned 5 shearers, and did I mind if it was a long-running role, and I said the longer the better because work was very scarce in theatre. And I didn't hear anything for 2 years, and then one day they called me and all the cast was there, and we read it and we did it from then on.
And what did you think of Lizzie?
Oh, I loved her. I couldn't have done it if I hadn't.
Yeah. Of course the fans love her, but tell me what it is that you think that what is it about Lizzie that makes her so special?
Well, you see, when you're doing it, you don't realize it's special, do you, until you have a reaction from people. I just did it, for a job.
And you got to...
It's my first and last television series.
So you'd never been in television before?
I've been in television, but only in plays. I'd never been in a series.
And what was it like on the set of Prisoner?
Terrific. A lot of laughs. That's about it, I should say.
Did you ever get up to no good with Val Lehman? I bet you did, didn't you?
Well, she and I had a bit of a reputation, yes.
Oh, yes.
She became my closest, dearest friend in the company. Large number of women, sometimes up to 90 in a week, Got to know them all very well.
And what was the turnover like? Because how often were you making an episode of Prisoner?
Oh, you'll have to ask Val that. I've never been into statistics, but I know that we were flat out sometimes 64 hours a week.
So it was a big turnover, wasn't there? You were working very hard.
Shockingly hard work.
How did you remember your lines if you were doing that?
Ask Val that too.
I thought we will ask Val about
well,
that.
I used to have to ask her what my next line is sometimes.
Did you ever, as somebody's saying ad-lib, did you ever ad-lib?
Well, you can't very well in something that's being done so quickly. Sometimes we jacked up and said we're not going to say that because it's not acceptable. So we did a fair bit of rewriting.
Really? So you had some form of control, perhaps?
Oh, well, one had to.
Why?
Well, I mean, the public would have been offered some really vile rubbish, if we hadn't put our feet down.
Now, just earlier we were talking about one of the most incredible storylines, which is when you became you ran the book in the prison, didn't you?
Yes, and I'm not into horse racing, although I'm Australian and they're noted for it. I wouldn't have the faintest idea. And I had to learn all this ridiculous rubbish about second leg of the double and all that stuff. And I didn't understand it, and so it wouldn't sink in. And I was almost in tears. And then one day I screamed out, "Who wrote this bloody rubbish?" And a voice from up in the control room said, "I did." Oh, never mind, I didn't get the sack.
No, thank goodness you didn't as well. And Lizzie had some heartbreak, didn't she?
Poor old Lizzie. She was never out of trouble, was she?
Well, no, sometimes she deserved not to be out of trouble because she used to steal things.
Oh, well, not much.
Good job the governor's not here, eh?
The governor was very fond of me.
Yes, she was actually. She always forgave you, didn't she?
Oh, always, yes.
I can't think why. What were the best storylines, do you think? Which ones did you enjoy the most?
Darling, I can't remember. Truly.
Can I prod your memory a little bit?
Yes.
What about that time when that woman turned up and claimed didn't she claim to be your daughter?
Oh, yes, I think so, yes. I don't know why, whether there was money involved, and she pretended to be my daughter, and because my children had been taken away from me when I was a young mother, I think I'd neglected them, this girl turned up, and of course I'd always been looking for my children, and I was ecstatic about that, and then it turned out she was a fraud.
It was very sad, I remember that bit.
Do you,
Yes, I do actually, and it was very sad because this, you all know, this is true, that you really have had a place in people's hearts as Lizzie, because she was such a lovely character. I always forgave her. Didn't you always forgive her for all the things that she did?
Thank you.
Well, it was lovely. Now, I'm going to leave Prisoner for a minute, Lizzie, because there's something which I must ask you about. You were in Mad Max 1, weren't you?
Yes, I broke my leg in Mad Max 1. One of the boys in the wing said to me, "Break a leg." I said, "Oh, not again."
What was that like? That must have been fun doing that.
Film?
Yeah. Well, being in Mad Max 1, that must have been good.
Well, I thought it was the maddest story I'd ever been in, actually. Oh, it was another job.
You keep saying this, because I'm going to say it, but when you were asked to do the part of prisoner, you did it for the money, didn't you?
Yes. No two ways about it. Needed it badly.
And did you ever regret?
No. No.
Who of the characters do you think was your favourite character? Not actress, but character.
In that?
In Prisoner.
Oh.
Go on, what was something to say? Dawn.
Oh, yeah, with Dor, yeah. Well, Dor and myself used to get the giggles, and we were always in terrible trouble because we couldn't control ourselves. Yes, Dor, of course, yes. She's having her second baby in a minute.
Do you keep in touch with people?
Oh, yeah, all of them.
And so, obviously, you know what she's up to.
Oh, I know what everybody's up to.
You did as Lizzie as well, didn't you? Yeah, because Doreen was a bit of a mess, really. She was always getting into trouble, wasn't she?
Oh, yes, poor little Dor.
Oh, I can see her with that teddy bear. What about when they let you out? Because, of course, you said earlier that you had poisoned 5 shearers, but you didn't.
No, I hadn't at all. I was in prison under misapprehension. The manager of the sheep station had poisoned the shearers, but I took the blame for it.
But they discovered that this was a great injustice. They let you out. But you hit the bottle again, didn't you?
Oh, whenever I had the chance.
Somebody was saying they remembered a lovely scene with you in the park.
I remember that. I saw that, and I thought I was brilliant. I'd never seen such a wonderful drunk.
And did you get fed up with playing the same character?
No, because unless you love something, you can't do it anyway, so you had to love it. I mean, sometimes you had to stand there and think, please God, make this sound honest, you know, because it has to be honest. So I think I succeeded.
Because Val said to me that you were the sort of person that wouldn't play a part that you didn't believe in,
No,
you didn't like.
I can't.
You just can't do that.
I'm not technical at all. I'm heart actress.
So is there quite a bit of Lizzie in you, or you in Lizzie?
I think there must be in everything I do, yes.
When you played that last...
And I only pinch flowers.
Yes, she said to me, she said, I'm a bit of a thief, actually. I pinch flowers. But when you left, that last scene that you did, were you sad at all?
Oh, yes. Well, the worst day I went through was the day that Val left, and I had broken my wrist. It was never completely healed. As a matter of fact, we hide that. And I had to beat the iron bars with my broken wrist. That hurt. I broke my heart the day she left. And I wept bitterly, too, the day that Vinegar left.
You obviously got on with Fiona Spencer, did you?
Oh, of course. I see her twice a week at home.
I know that the person who you really made friends with most of all was Queen Bee.
Here she is.
Let's bring Val Lehman on.
How are you going, Mary?
You all right?
Yep. Hello, Anna.
Oh, I'm sorry, my love. Lovely to see you.
Thank you very much.
You're looking gorgeous, I might
Ah, yes, a bit glitzy. There's a bit of change from blue denim, isn't it?
Right, I want the truth now. Come on, tell us all about her. What's she really like?
Who?
Sheila Florance. What's she like?
Well, what's Sheila Florance like? Before I started in the show, I knew that Sheila was cast, and I was very much in awe of her because she is, if she had her due, like the Japanese do with their sort of famous people, she would be one of Australia's national living treasures. I think, anyway, that's what she deserves. And I was extremely in awe of her because she is a very great actress. She's wonderful to work with. We used to do what we called, or what Sheila calls, four-eyed acting. And in fact, Sheila once suggested that what we really ought to do is throw the script out the window, dismiss the rest of the cast, just leave the crew there, and we'd ad-lib a whole episode.
That would have been fun,
I think we could have done it too, actually.
Now, Sheila mentioned earlier this thing about learning lines.
Oh, she exaggerates. But that's another thing, she exaggerates terribly. There's only one time, really, that Sheila did have trouble with lines, and that was, in fact, with that storyline about being a bookmaker. Because it was a very complicated plot. It was stupid, but it was complicated as well. About a sting, virtually, how she was actually ripping off all the rest of the prisoners. And I tried to explain it to her, and she just didn't understand. And I actually remember in one scene in the laundry, there was a pile of sheets on the table, and you knew what your words were, but you didn't know what they meant, you see, or when to start saying them. And I had my hand under the sheets, and I just squeezed her arm every time it was her turn to talk. But Only for one scene ever.
But were there any other times when you had to prompt her into?
Oh, yes, hundreds of
I
times.
don't believe it. Don't believe it.
Oh, Valley.
Oh, Sheila.
She saved my bacon many a time, I'll tell you.
What did she? How did she help you?
I put my head on her shoulder and say, "What's my next line?"
You thought it was affection between the characters, didn't you?
It is. I mean, people love B. They love B. Smith.
Yes, and goodness knows why. I mean, heavens above, would you like to live next door to her? They're all mad.
I would like to live next door to Lizzie.
Yes.
She was a lovely character.
You'd have the best garden in the world. You know that Sheila has actually won. How often? 4 times. 4 times. There is a prize in the city of St Kilda for the best garden for a flat owner. Now, she doesn't just garden in front of her flat. We have things called nature strips where you have the footpath, then a verge, then you have a sort of a plantation in the middle. It is covered with flowers. You cannot put a pin between them. It looks amazing, and all Madam's work, every bit of it, and she's won this prize 4 times.
So, Sheila, what other hobbies? Well, yes, indeed.
Cooking and cats.
Oh.
And children.
Yes, she loves children. She was telling me about this.
Fantastic hostess. But going to dinner at Sheila's house is a hazard.
Why?
Well, you walk through the front door and she nails your feet to the floor and she force feeds you food. And you get out 3 days later if you're lucky.
So she's a fine cook as well.
Fantastic.
And how many cats have you got?
Only 2. I used to have 23.
Oh, my God.
But I had a house with a huge garden in those days.
You'd need it. What were some of the best moments? Can you remember some of the best moments with her?
Oh, some of the best. One of the things that speaking of cats, a scene that I wasn't in that I loved was when Lizzie had a cat, and it was killed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, a beautiful scene. It was very early on in the show, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of my favourite, most difficult scenes. It wasn't difficult in that it was badly written or anything like that. One most emotional was when your character left the prison for the first time. That was and it was a joy. It's such a joy to play with an actress of this calibre. I mean, you can't help but look even better than you normally are alongside her.
Oh, cut it out.
But Sheila, you paid me to say that. Do I have to give the money back now?
But those early episodes, being serious for a minute, those early episodes in particular of Prisoner, I have always thought that the calibre of acting and the actresses was extremely high. It was obvious that you were all very, very fine actors and actresses, may I say.
I think we were all stage trained too. That was one of the secrets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I had served my apprenticeship for about 50 years before I went into Prisoner.
And I was an overnight success of 10 years.
Sheila, was it difficult to change from the theatre to television?
No.
Really?
No, we were discussing that with my son, who's a theatre director, this morning, actually, because they watched a program with Michael Caine talking about stage and screen technique. I say you can act or you can't, in anything.
I tend to agree with that.
Really?
The talent can be developed and honed and refined, but it has to be there to start with. You cannot manufacture an actor.
But don't you miss the instant response from an audience?
Oh, yes. It's lovely to have an audience. Oh, it's gorgeous.
But did the crews ever help you? Did they help you?
Our crew was wonderful.
Family. Absolute family.
They taught me everything I knew about working in a television studio. Didn't get it from the directors, that's for sure.
Yeah, she's another one who always speaks her mind, isn't she?
That's why we get on so well. Everybody was frightened of us.
What sort of characteristics does Sheila have?
Characteristics?
How would you...
What sort of characteristics do you mean? I mean,
Well, what sort of person is she? Because I think you can give us an objective
Sheila
view.
is, I think, now this is going to sound sycophantic again, I'm sorry, but it's true. She is probably the most generous person I've ever met in my life. She's also a naughty old trap that needs a kick in the bum occasionally. But, not too often.
When I first met you, Sheila, I was longing for you to say, bugger off, because that was always been one of my favourite expressions, because you say it like nobody else could possibly say it.
Oh, bugger off!
Hey! Marvellous.
You know, at one stage the show was put to air at 7:30, which in Australia, briefly, to warm the spot for a new television show that they were making, which was called Holiday Island.
Oh, yes.
We nicknamed it Holiday Iceland because all these people in bikinis were in the winter out behind the pool. It was hilarious.
And we have a
Same
very
pool
cold
they use
winter.
in Neighbours now. Sorry. And what was I saying?
We went out at 7:30.
Yeah. And they actually decided they had to censor it. So they actually censored some of the swear words. And I noticed, and I said to the station manager, actually program manager, Gordon, Gordon, I find your censorship very strange. You're bleeping out all the bastards and you're leaving all the buggers in. I mean, would you rather be a bastard than a bugger than a bastard? I mean, you do have a choice over one, not over the other. And next week all the buggers are gone as well.
What's it feel like to come to Britain and see how people absolutely adore you? And
Overwhelming, I must say. It makes me very close to tears. And I do feel privileged, thank you. Especially in Derby, because my husband, who was killed in the war, and the father of my children, was in the Derbyshire Yeomanry.
Oh,
yeah.
wonderful.
Local connection.
Yes. What sort of letters did people write to you?
Well, the lovely part for me about Lizzie was we have a huge Greek community in Melbourne, and these darling old Greek women who can't speak one word of English would meet me in the market and come and say, Lizzie, and throw their arms around me and cry. And that made me happy. I mean, I thought they're identifying with age, you know, old age and loneliness. Yeah. And that was really worthwhile for me.
I think also the indication of a great performance that transcends that language difference, too.
Yes, indeed. Right, now, more truth about Sheila Florance, perhaps. What were some of what did she ever misbehave on the set at all?
No, I'm a strict disciplinarian.
She's very, very disciplined.
Oh, she's a real pro. All right, Sheila, what about Val here? Did she ever get up to no good at all?
No, she slept in once.
I used to sleep during the scenes, don't you remember?
Oh, yes, I had a wonderful scene once in a recreation room, and I was spouting off miles of this rubbish, and she was fast asleep.
For real? I was also very famous for sleeping between scenes. Whenever I got a minute off, to just go, I could sleep on a barbed wire fence, literally.
She could.
Any regrets when you left, Prisoner?
It was a very sad moment for me, the actual last scene, and of course playing it with Sheila, because the crew, who was so wonderful, actually engineered that I did the last scene, because, you know, we shoot out of sequence, that my last scene for the week was the last scene that I appeared in, and so it was a bit sort of weepy.
Yeah, I'm almost howling now, I do remember.
Because I'd made such wonderful friends, and I was sort of moving on to something new, but, well, you know, I didn't lose the friends, so I didn't lose anything, really.
You two have both mentioned the fact that you made lots and lots of friends when you made Prisoner. And I must say that this is quite a special thing, because it's the first time ever that 4 members, original members of the Prisoner cast, have all been on the British stage together. Because I want to bring back Amanda Muggleton and Carol Burns. Hello again. Thank you. Hello again. I can never believe that this woman is Frankie Doyle.
I change from week to week.
What are you up to, Carol?
I've been juggling. I've been juggling.
for the last few weeks I've been juggling 3 jobs, and I'm not a very good juggler, and all 3 of them have just crashed at my feet, so I'm unemployed at the moment.
Shame, shame.
Yes, now I'm spending a lot of time in my allotment. I've got an allotment and I grow organic vegetables, so I eat hearty when I'm unemployed.
You know, I didn't see the early episodes of Prisoner, and I saw the first 2 episodes. You were brilliant as Frankie Doyle.
We were
Thanks.
Absolutely.
We were scared stiff of her.
Doreen loved me. It was one of the early things that I really liked was when it was nothing. It was to do with the television aspect of it, and it was when I was in solitary, and I was calling for Doreen, Doreen, and there was this plaintive call going out across the void in Nunawading. And that's the sort of thing that I thought was great about those early series, that they actually used.
They just used voice.
They used a lot of television techniques rather than just churning it out.
And those early episodes were incredibly dramatic, and they were actually very depressing.
So speaking of that particular scene, I wonder if you remember this. They shot you in the cell yelling out, Doreen! Then they had to shoot a scene with Doreen, Colette Mann, and me, and I think you, because we all 3 shared a cell at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to just offset, yell out, Doreen, for us to react to. And when I remember I was making a cup of tea, and you were sitting against the wall and you fell asleep. and so the cue came, we finished conversation, and the Doreen was supposed to come, you see, which had in fact already done another scene. It was only just to cue us. And nothing happened. So we all looked at each other and went, and the director said, cut, that was wonderful.
A truly creative moment in television.
What was wonderful.
But we used to actually terrify the crew as well
Ooh.
in those early scenes, before they got to know us, before they knew what little pussycats we were.
Yes, the first riot scene they had never seen, all the women going down a corridor straight at them. They were trembling.
Yes. One of the funniest things I remember is I don't know if it's in the first or second scene, and you were in solitary and I had to come up and antagonize you somehow or some way.
You did it often.
Well, I antagonized everyone in the end. But I had to spit in her face.
Oh,
and well, I think we had to.
How many takes did you have to
do? 15 times. In the end, I was hysterical, and of course, I had no more spit left.
For which I was eternally grateful.
Yeah.
It's a hideous thing to have to do.
Of this blob sliding down your face. Oh, we got to do some lovely things.
Yes, we were really wicked. It was great fun.
Yeah. What about Sheila? What sort of memories do you have, Karen, of working with Sheila in Prisoner?
Sheila, I met Sheila before we worked together. I was doing a play in Grant Street called Chidley, that was another time I was juggling too, but I was more successful with oranges than jobs. And Sheila, I think, as I heard Val saying before, is one of the sort of renowned actresses of Australia.
Indeed.
And so when I met her then,
I kissed her feet.
Yes, well.
She'd just come from Brisbane, and I'd never seen or heard of this young actress, and I saw her performance, and I was absolutely awestruck. And I thought, there's hope for Australia yet.
And then we worked together in this television series, and we had tremendous scenes to play together. One of the things I really loved was, the escape that we did when you had the heart attack and you had to go back. The things that they asked you to do. Here was Sheila shinnying over fences and running through woods and goodness knows what all. And that was in a 12-hour day sometimes.
And 110 degrees in the shade.
Absolutely. So, the heart attack, very well acted.
Oh, what about you, Amanda?
My memories of you, Sheila, are you making me cry with me watching you do scenes. I can remember sitting in the green room day after day, just watching what you did and how you did it, and it would evoke such tears from me. And the other thing I remember about her is her generosity, because you would go on and do a scene, and sometimes they were difficult scenes, especially crying scenes are always difficult, and they just literally call action and they expect tears to flow, and sometimes the dialogue didn't help you get to tears. And I can remember saying to you once, I'm really worried about this next scene, I've got to go out there and cry, and how do you do it? And teach me and help me. And I remember going out there and doing it, and when I came off, she was there for me to hug, and she, you know, full of praise at what I'd done, and you were always like that with everybody, praising everybody, you know, congratulating them.
Or telling them off.
Oh yes, you were always telling us
But that
off.
also was in a spirit of generosity.
Yes.
Sheila actually, when I say learned, sometimes you need to hear someone put into words things for you that you sort of felt, but you haven't been able to put them into words for yourself. And that happened a lot with me, with Sheila, which gave me a better understanding of what I was doing as a performer. Her talking about honesty in acting and truth meant a lot to me. I think I hope I was putting it into practice, but I sort of wasn't totally aware of it.
Our best thing was when I called my baby, after Lizzie, I called my baby Elizabeth, after your character, because I loved her so much, and she did end up helping me and being very sympathetic to me, which a lot of people weren't.
No, so what? The Duchess of York called her Baby B.
What was your best moment, do you think, in Prisoner?
Very hard to pick, you see. Most of the time, Frankie was very inarticulate. She was a very unhappy character, really, and all her aggressions came out because nobody understood her, except for Karen Travers, played by Peter Topano. And one of my favourite moments, I think, was the reading lesson that she gave me.
Oh, yes.
Because it was such a tender scene, and it was a scene where really two characters talked really closely. And I fell in love with her at that, in that scene.
That was your best.
That was my favourite.
What was your favourite moment in Prisoner?
I think it would have to be the birth of the baby, because I think at that point Chrissy changed and became a bit more human. And also when the man who was the father of Elizabeth came onto the into the series, it was wonderful to have him as, you know, a sparring partner. And that one scene I really loved doing, again, it was a bit like our riot scene that we did, smashing everything up. I had a kitchen scene where I just had to pick up all these plates and hurl them against walls and throw washing everywhere, and I loved doing things like that.
You enjoyed all of that, did you?
I did, yes, I did. It was also very dramatic.
Sheila, what about you? Can you remember a particular thing in Prisoner that you really did enjoy or was most memorable to you?
Well, I can tell you one of the funniest things that I've ever witnessed on any studio floor, theatre or anywhere else. There was an actress called
Judy
Curing. And she just came into the prison and talking about lovely
Peter Topano.
Peter Topano, one of the most beautiful girls I've ever set eyes on in my life. And she was being kind to this person and was pouring her a cup of tea in her cell. And she said, "Sugar?" And Jude Curing said, "I'm a bit of a diabetic." Wasn't in the script.
Wasn't it Jude Curing that in one of the corridor scenes, when she got right on top of the camera, she pulled a fly, a plastic fly out of her nose and looked at it?
How imaginative.
She was mad. She was crazy.
She was the bitter end, this one. But really funny, because I'd never met anyone like that before.
Val, what about you?
Two most memorable moments were not actually to do with actually performing. And they were the very first day that all of us were together. That was the very first day that all of us were together. To me, it was incredibly exciting. I was excited about the actresses that I was working with. I was excited about the fact that it was women, mostly. And the atmosphere. We were starting on a new venture. And it was very, I was just tingling all over. I thought it was wonderful. And just to hear the script read, and I thought, oh, this is going to be marvellous. And then my other moment, which was not actually a performance either, was the first time we heard the theme song. They brought a cassette recorder, a little cassette recorder, and said, "Oh, are you interested in hearing the theme song for the show?" "Oh, yes." And they just put it down on a sofa in our green room, which is the area where actors sort of rest. And we all sat down and crouched and stood around it and listened to this theme song, and were absolutely delighted with it.
Well, it made us cry, didn't it?
Well, I think at this point it would be very nice if we were reminded of the prisoner thief and that we invited onto the stage somebody to sing it for us?
I'm so glad that you asked me to sing it for a minute.
Not again.
I don't know the
Sheila,
words.
Would you join us in the singing of the prisoner thief?
No, darling, not tonight.
Oh, but you will stand around for it. Right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I want first of all to thank Carol Burns.
Thank you.
Amanda Muggleton. Val Lehman. And Sheila Florance.
He used to give me roses. I wish he would again. But that was on the outside. Things were different then. On the inside, the roses grow. They don't mind the stony ground. But the roses here are prisoners too. When morning comes around.